My dear brothers and sisters, today we celebrate the memorial of Saint Sharbel Makluf. Now, before 2002, I had never heard the name of Saint Sharbel Makluf. I'm not surprised if others probably haven't heard of him either. Saint Sharbel was a Maronite monk who lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He's basically contemporary with Saint Therese of Lisieux. He felt an earnest desire to do God's will, and for him that meant becoming this kind of a monk and living a bit of a hermit's life. And it's said that his life was filled with many miraculous events, and then also after his death he basically hasn't ceased to work miracles in answer to people's prayers, even curing Muslims who seek his intercession. One of the events that we hear about is that one of the brothers one day wanted to play a joke on Saint Sharbel. And so he decided that instead of putting oil in his lamp, he would put water in the lamp so that it wouldn't light at night, so he wouldn't be able to pray too long at night. Brothers can sometimes be a bit cruel, right? So that evening, the brother walks by his door and he notices that there's light coming from underneath the door of Saint Sharbel. Turns out that God provided light. He lit up Saint Sharbel in order for him to be able to see what he was reading. It's also been reported after his death that he and Saint Maron appeared to someone and they performed surgery on the person, and Saint Sharbel, who had a very long beard, plucked a hair from his beard and sewed it to stitch the person up after they would perform this quote-unquote surgery. Go figure. When the person woke up, the hair was there like stitches. Can't make these stories up. Personally, I owe Saint Sharbel quite a lot. In 1996, when I was a freshman in college, I was not very Catholic. I was in the New Age. Do you understand that I did not understand our Catholic faith the way I do today? And therefore I was exploring. And I would go to the Friday Jummah prayers of the Muslims in my college because I was interested. Just interested. And one day I was meditating on the name of Jesus, because the New Age likes to take anything and it'll take anything, a la carte if you would. So I'm meditating on the name of Jesus, and I happened to see this guy with a hood, like this, and light coming from around him, with a white beard and a black dot on the beard. And immediately, somehow I knew that this guy was not God, but he was good and holy. Shortly after that, without even realizing it, I stopped going to the Friday Jummah prayers of the Muslims. Years later, when I entered into postulancy with the Franciscans, we went on a retreat to a Maronite monastery in Petersham, Massachusetts, and there I happened to see an icon or a picture of Saint Sharbel Makluf, like that, and I said to the abbot, I said, "Who is that guy?" Because that's the guy I saw. Obviously, I'm not a Maronite. I'm not Lebanese. How would I have had any exposure to a saint like this growing up where I grew up in Virginia Beach in a parish that had no statues and no stained glass windows? I didn't even know who St. Patrick really was, other than being Irish. Didn't know who St. Francis was, just that he had a song. We can see, brothers and sisters, that when we say yes to the will of God, God uses us in remarkable ways. That's what we hear in the gospel, this invitation. Saint Sharbel, for him, the will of God meant becoming a monk. And because of that, God has used him mightily. There are other stories of those who became monks, one in particular, St. Anthony of the Desert, after whom St. Anthony of Padua is actually named. And God said to him one day, he said, "Anthony, I want you to see that there is somebody who is holier than you so that you won't get too proud." He says, "Okay, Lord, who is it?" He says, it is this doctor who is living in Alexandria in Egypt. And he is living with his family and carrying out his services to the sick and to the poor with such utmost love that he right now is the holiest person on earth. And God said to Antony, Antony, you had to go and become a monk for your salvation. This doctor had to be a doctor for his salvation. So we want to ask the Lord today, God, what is your will for me particularly? What is your will? What do you call me to do? If I already know my state of life, what am I to do within that? How can I further follow you? We ask the Lord this today. We place those intentions on the altar, trusting that God, who wants us to do his will more than we want to do his will in fact equip us to do his will by showing us what his will is and then giving us the grace to joyfully accept it. May Saint Sharbel intercede for us. Amen.